Hello, we are live, and I think this is going to be a really interesting episode because, well, not just because of all the puns, because we're talking to Dr. Ahmed El Adl. Our episode's called Send in the Clones, the Real World Impact of Digital Twins. Ahmed is well known as the first person to describe cognitive digital twins, cognitive digital threads, and cognitive digital swarms. We're going to ask you questions about what exactly those things are throughout this. He has had a long career, but one of the highlights is that he built and led Accenture's global AI technology consulting group. He's worked with the United States Air Force and Space Force, advising them on digital twins. He is the CEO now of CogniTwins, an advisory company that helps companies build their digital twin capabilities. Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us today. And as we always do, I'm going to ask you our kickoff question. What is on your mind?
First, thank you, Eric, very much for having me today. And quickly, what is in my mind now? Something very relevant to what you did since you graduated from Yale. Simply, it is how advanced AI and my cognitive digital twin would enable precision medicine. This is really what is in my mind, nearly not now, but every day since some time.
So are you thinking about the concept of like, how are you capturing sort of like the human twin? Sorry, Jeff, no offense there, but the human of the body, so that you basically have this online capability of like what's going on based on sensor data, fitness, wearables, etc., that kind of thing.
Yes, it is. We know that some medical equipment companies, Philips, Siemens, and others, are working on digital twin for human organs, right? And others, as you and me, Eric, worked on similar cases, how digital twin and AI will help life science and pharmaceutical companies for drug research and disease research. So if I have a cognitive system supported by Gen AI, other AI categories, and so on, and help us to understand the diseases in terms of its effects on the human body, and help us to find the right generic drug for this disease. Then take the generic drug, and on the other side, I understand, for example, how Ahmed body is functioning, and my medical history, my lifestyle, and all of this information, which is, in my opinion, can be done easily. Yeah, if you combine my digital twin and digital twin of specific disease and digital twin of the recommended drug, can companies like Pfizer and other pharmaceutical companies create a drug for this disease? This is personalized medicine, precision medicine, whatever. This is actually what is in my mind, and I am brainstorming a lot about this topic. And it is for me, it is not industrial application of AI and cognitive digital twin. It is a human application. It is for the sake of every one of us, right? And nobody will benefit.
To think about potential implications. I am also immediately thinking clinicals.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
the clinical trials.
Yeah. So all of this, this may be under the drug disease research, right? And everything will be accelerated. And we know that one of the technology tools which helped everyone at the beginning of COVID-19 was advanced AI tools, which helped quickly understand the virus and find candidates for vaccine or medication or whatever. So if we take this concept and sponsor it, and everyone it is a big business opportunity for a lot of people, but also it will bring our life quality as humans. Even our pets will benefit out of it, by the way. Yeah. So human and pets, at least, and other animals will benefit of it. And you can take and every human will benefit out of such systems, from the health, life quality, and the business, of course.
So it's interesting, that idea of, I hadn't really thought of it this way, but so much of, maybe the last, 200 years of progress or whatever has been all about how do we find solutions that are sort of work on the average, right? That I come up with something that sort of, it's going to help, whether it's a drug or or whatever, it works for most people. And what's interesting is that this idea of creating a digital twin of a specific person, as opposed to creating a sort of a model of a idealized person, actually sort of re-democratizes it. And it's really only with this technology that we have developing right now that we even have the ability to sort of systematize. We didn't do it before because we couldn't systematize creating something that is specific. So I think that's a really interesting. I hadn't thought about that idea of democratizing things essentially by having the ability to create a specific twin as opposed to a generic twin or a generic model.
First you will have to create generic twins,
right?
Which some companies are working on early stages, but I think technologically speaking, we'll get there. I think in 3 years we'll see really usable pieces of generic digital twins for different organs, different diseases, and possibly for drugs. And somebody else will come and use those, combine those, like as you mentioned in the beginning, Eric. When I investigated the topic of digital twin, which, as you know, was first introduced by NASA, seriously introduced by NASA, I moved it from just a simulation, physics and engineering system, but to a cognitive system. And once we moved it to cognitive system or cognitive architecture, yes, you will have maybe digital twins of kidney, of liver, of heart, and lung, and so on. But if I combine the digital twin of my organs and maybe I will be able to create a digital twin for me as Ahmed, as a human, from the medical perspective, and those digital twins will join in a kind of swarm, which I called cognitive digital swarm, working together to serve me and help everyone, like my doctors and others, to help me, right? So it will be a technology. It is a technology question. It is architecture question. It is not only twin. It will be in a number of twins, because if we say we'll create a digital twin for a human, this is near impossible because of the technological and scientific complexity of it. And once, even if you create it in a lab, and later on in the real world, this system will be a nightmare to design, build, or maintain, operate, and all of those stuff, But someday maybe somebody will build this system. But it will be, I think, Jeff, in my opinion, some countries will have to have it as a national initiative, like we have today. We have national federal initiative for cancer and the other major breakthrough, even internet and so on. I think this should be a national initiative supported by large governments, and everyone will benefit of it because of the complexity, but also because of the huge benefits which will come out of such systems. Eric, this was just what is in my thought now.
That is an amazing thought. I also, what I'm thinking? I am thinking how that would impact pharma drug development. because now, even when we talk about like, application of AI in small molecules, right? We look at the molecule. We don't look at the molecule organ disease, right? This would open the door to molecule organ disease, accelerate the time, reduce the cost. Now, right? We're looking all at the pharma drug prices and what's going on, politically, and we're like, oh my God, how will they ever take it down, right? But if we dream here of the cognitive digital twins that you just described, well, I could see that it would revolutionize, or if there's such a word, turn it upside down, so to speak, right? The pharma discovery.
Yeah, and actually every company I talk to from this space said specialty materials. Yeah, from petrochemicals to drug or pharmaceutical and life science, the same concept. All of them, at least I talk to, have similar initiatives. Maybe they are starting small because there is a lot of dirty work which have to be done to get them ready to have a real start and show some real results. But they have this already. But and they understood that, as you rightly mentioned, in clinical or molecular structure and simulation, all of those tasks which they have to do, we know one of the major problem is how to gain insight. I was one of my former teams. We discussed exactly the very topic we discuss now for specialty chemicals and specialty materials a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And simply, the problem of any scientist today is how to collect the relevant data and gain insight, because it is too much. And we know that there is part of the academic, or one of the categories for academic publications, meta paper, meta research. Team sit down and give us state of the art, everything, and who wrote and who did and all of this stuff. This category was a major part or category of research for industrial research also. Now, I don't need this category. The advances in generative AI from Open AI and Google and others, small and bigger, enabling this today with all the problems we have with Gen AI, it is helping. It is helping. And it, over the next 2-3 years, will fill in the gaps, solve some technical problems on the underlying architecture of Gen AI, and will invent new methods and new algorithms and so on. But it is when I think about the combination of Gen AI capabilities and other progress in other AI categories with an underlying architecture based on generative AI, that you will be able now to gain insight in real time as a scientist, as an engineer, gain insight, or business leaders as well, gain insight and take beautiful, highly precision actions and decisions which will benefit our life. Simply, yeah.
Well, Ahmed, one of the things that we talk. I forget who I was talking to earlier about AI readiness, and can companies actually use this? Like, what industries are already using digital twins? Are using them effectively? Where are they not? Where are they not being used? Where's the hype focus? Like, what's going on from that sort of aspect of digital twin?
Yeah, we started because the concept of digital twin, or the offspring, the cognitive digital twin, is not new for any scientist or any engineer who designed and built machines and complicated systems. This is the way of thinking any scientist or engineer think since long time. And we know that the applications started with NASA and United States Air Force, published, I think the first report was 2010. When we picked up this concept in 2014-15, with the rise of Internet of Things, industrial IoT, Internet of Everything, and all of this stuff, the main industries which started the adoption of the concept were the industries near to engineering, which are all the physical assets rich industries. Oil and gas, automotive, industrial manufacturing are the early adopters, and in my opinion today, they have the strongest implementations and the most successful implementation of the concept, whatever they call it, digital twin, cognitive digital twin, but the concept, as we understand, is highly adopted in such industries. The second industries is the research industries, like what we discussed earlier, the life science, pharmaceutical industry, specialty chemical and specialty materials industries. They are adopting the same concept, at least on their R&D side. There is another industry which is very interesting, and there are a lot of investments and a lot of initiative, which is the architecture, engineering, construction / operation of buildings, factories, cities, and so on. Given that they have there what they call BIM, or Building Information Management Systems, so they digitized a lot of data, a lot of CAD systems, creating all of those files. So they have the 3D, every 3D piece of information relevant to the building, inside and outside, underneath and over it. Every piece of data is in those systems. So it made it easier to add kind of a visual 3D layers on top of it, some intelligence on it, which I think accelerated the adoption on the AEC/O industries side. On the industrial side, as I mentioned, the oil and gas, manufacturing, automotive, they had problems because of the readiness. Yeah. We know today that some factories, they have just dumb machines installed 20 years ago. They have no sensors, not even they have switch on and off. And they are the cash cows of this factory, of this company. So, and no CFO will sign to replace them. So can they adopt? Yes, but they have to do work at least for 2 or 3 years to get ready for this, because Eric, you are an artificial intelligence veteran, and this is all what you did in your whole life in machine learning application, real applications. It is the data, the current machine learning architectures today, as you know, rely 100% on the data quality and the quantity. Without data quality and the quantity, you can do nothing. Right?
So it's interesting. Yeah. I am coming from an industry that actually, I think, had the opposite problem. So I was in the restaurant industry, and in the restaurant industry, what you have is you have a ton of data that it's almost like waste data, right? Like there's like all this data being produced and nobody is even using it. So it's the opposite problem of, we didn't have too few sensors. We had all these sensors and we were using the data, sort of piece by piece, so there's a kitchen, system that tells you how long to cook something. And there's a dining room management system that tells you, when the tables are being set. But the interesting data is actually when you take all of those pieces of all those sensors and start looking at them together. Sometimes the most important metric was, if you took a metric from one and a metric from the other and you subtract them or something, you would actually find out something really interesting. And so in that industry, it was kind of the opposite problem. It wasn't that they had too little data. It was that they weren't able to actually ingest and use the data they would have. But I actually think there's a huge opportunity. We talked about this earlier today, but I think there is a huge opportunity for creating essentially a restaurant twin of every, not just of the chain, but of the individual restaurants, sort of with respect to the chain, and to be able to say, hey, this problem that's happening, or this thing that we're seeing in the data right now, is a warning sign that you're about to have a mass exodus of your employees because they're really frustrated, or that your guest satisfaction scores are about to drop because we're seeing this thing happen that we've seen elsewhere. So I think there's that other side of, there are some companies that don't have the sophistication to get the data, and there's other companies that have the sophistication to get the data. They just don't have the sophistication to use the data.
I think this is very true. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just I wanted to say here. I think based on my daily communication with business leaders about these topics, AI and digital twin and so on, there are two major reasons. One is the level of education and awareness of the business leadership and about those technologies, and what are the real values for those technologies, as you rightly mentioned, Jeff. But there is a second point. Maybe this industry, for large consulting companies, they are not lucrative industry. They don't have big margin that they can. You as a consultant, you go in and ask for $2 or $5 million project and so on. So they are not the target of the large consulting companies. And in my career, it was always the education, to educate business leaders first about the technology in general, about the value of this technology for their specific business, bottom line, whatever. But once they got the right education and highlight to them the values, I think they go for it. But as we discussed maybe earlier in other discussion, Jeff, we start small with those businesses, which we can values which we can add, even with a mini concept of digital twin and AI, whatever gen AI or non-gen AI, whatever. Yeah.
So what's really interesting to me, Ahmed, is as you're talking about digital twins for cities, et cetera, it strikes me that possibly one of the most well-known and successful digital twin, although nobody calls it that, is the traffic analysis, GPS traffic analysis setups, like Waze and so forth. Like that is like a poster child for what a digital twin needs to be, right? You've got all of this data being collected all of the time. It's cognitive in the sense that it's predicting where is this traffic going to go. It's even taking action because it's rerouting folks. So it's actually, it's interesting because you're saying you're going to go small, but actually this incredibly large system is in fact one of the most impressive twins.
And we see major initiatives for this in Europe, actually here in the States also, but they are not visible to the media at least. There are a lot of work here in smart city in the United States here, but also in Europe. The focus in Europe is about how to use digital twin, AI, in what I call intelligent sensing, edge intelligence, to enhance the well-being of the residents and the visitors of the city. Yeah. Because most of the European system, the large European system, they have this traffic management systems, a crisis management system, and all of those digital systems. But they are combining all of this and adding on top of it a layer based on the concept or the architectural concept of digital twin. Then visualization, and you see the value. And last year with a team from Europe, we collaborated and we created a strategy for how cognitive digital twin and the metaverse will help the city mayor and his team to enhance the well-being of the people, well-being whether they are home at work, in a public space, in a private space, whatever. But how to use this? And we did the study. It was fascinating to learn how these technologies can come together and really completely will redesign, rewrite our life. So, and it is possible. It is only, as we mentioned earlier, there are different who are not yet there to say, we have all the technology pieces with which I can take a city like Boston and create a digital twin for the city, which will manage crisis, manage traffics, manage whatever well-being and all of this stuff. It is too much for now. But one of the major common problem across industries, across regions, is the human factor.
Right.
The skilled people who understand those intelligent systems and can can architect them, build them, who don't have enough expertise from the number of years. And this is a major problem. And I think it is a matter of time. It is a matter. Gen AI will educate us and will help us to get smarter.
Absolutely. I think
That's a perfect lead-in, Jeff.
yeah, it's a perfect lead-in to, our small use of Gen AI tools is we always ask ChatGPT to ask questions, and usually I give the guest, I ask it for 10 questions, and I usually do 2 of them, and I always ask people, do you want absurd or thought-provoking first? But I will tell you right now, they're all just absurd, so I'm just going to go with absurd.
Let us start with this.
So actually, it's fascinating because usually ChatGPT, when I ask it for funny questions, and they're usually not that funny, but this one, it got kind of funny. So the first one was, is there any way to make my digital twin procrastinate less than I do, or is that asking too much of technology? There's so many of these. And then the other one, you don't have to answer that one because I'm not sure there's really an answer.
It's okay.
Here's if I delete my digital twin, do I experience any phantom twin symptoms?
Ask Eric. Yeah,
You might actually, in the sense that, like, I mean, if you were to take, ChatGPT has only been sort of around in its sort of highly used form that it's been in for what, like a year and a half or something like that.
Oh, I think we lost Eric. Eric froze. I guess I'll take over for him. I think he was asking, I think he was going to ask about, have we gotten to the point yet with our use of ChatGPT, or are we going to get to a point where we are so reliant on it that when it's not available to us, we actually wouldn't know how to think? And I think, Eric, that's a fascinating question. I mean, this is not, but by the way, not that different from any other tool, right? I mean, would we be who we are if we didn't have fire or the wheel?
Do you think, okay, Jeff, but do you think that the AI, of the internet deleted me out of the conversation for a second, just to illustrate?
Exactly, you mentioned that.
I do think there may have been some involvement of Skynet, and it's trying to stop you from.
Jeff, to understand this, I give simple analogy. When we started to have mobile phones, before that, everyone could remember his parents' phone number, his girlfriend or boyfriend or friends or whatever. Yeah. Now, if I would ask you what is the telephone number of your wife, maybe you don't know. Maybe you will look at your phone. Oh, I forget the last 4 digits. Yeah, and so on. So it affected our short and long-term memory. And imagine this is just a phone. This is just a storage. This is just a phone book, as we so call it, just a storage. Imagine you have a system on the same phone interacting with you visually and audio and maybe touch later on. And imagine over 30 years maximum, we will see the cognitive decline of humanity, especially the people who, it depends on how are you going to rely on those systems, And how long will you completely deactivate your brain and say, ask the system, ask whatever, ask my digital twin, yeah? I think you will see, and this is not new, this is every neuroscientist will agree with us that the more we challenge our brain, whatever the age is, the smarter we are, the more we remember things, the more we have cognitive capabilities to gain insight and knowledge and take right decisions and actions in life. Yeah? But if we shut this brain down and don't use it, I guarantee you there will be major cognitive decline to humanity.
We're already seeing a huge cognitive decline to our memory, right? And ability to process long form. But the question is it necessary that it's just a decline and no other function offsets? Or with the arrival of AI digital twins and with how we work with them, would we work differently? Would we think differently? Would we grow elsewhere? Question mark.
We know from the evolution perspective, Elena, that our cortex, frontal cortex, developed over, I don't know, 1,000, 100, or millions of years and so on. So there are early versions which didn't have the frontal cortex. And this question, I don't know if we lose our cognition, will we develop maybe wings? I don't know, but simply I do believe the cognitive decline will start in, say, I think by 2050 it will be measurable. You will be able to collect data about the cognitive decline of humans, some groups of humans. But how are we going to evolve? Sorry, Eric?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, isn't there the possibility, though, that as a result of this, these digital twins and resources of educational resources may allow us to actually get people to be retrained faster, to learn new things faster, et cetera? In other words, maybe I'm being too optimistic, and I mentioned this, the diamond age, and I said it was from the 70s. It was actually from 1995. I looked it up in an earlier conversation with you, Ahmed. But this concept of, can you actually sort of twin the educational process on in other words, precision education, if you will, going back to the concept of precision education that is tailored to the person, their interests, their capabilities, etc. I think there's still hope for us. We aren't going to turn
Here is the error scenario. Here is the nightmare scenario, Eric. First, like what's happening today, it will help us learn more, learn faster, be more productive. This is the phase started already. The second phase, it will replace our jobs. So why you learn? We learn for two main reasons: just to learn, to understand, to have knowledge and so on, but also to apply, to have a job, right? To have a job and also make money out of this job. If I don't have a job, under any circumstances, the learning curve will go down. Whatever tools you give me,
right?
There is no need. Why I learn how to build a satellite or a machine or a car or whatever. There is no need for it. The third one, while I am not learning new things enough, my cognition will decline. I know this is error scenario, but at least for us today, we'll benefit from phase one, and maybe in 10, 15 years, it will affect every one of us that will have some cognitive decline because there is no need to use our brain. Intentionally or unintentionally, it will happen. The third one, I don't know, but it is coming, in my opinion.
So here's the interesting thing, and Eric, I think you'll appreciate this point, is Eric and I are both avid book listeners, right? So you could look at book listening, for example, as there was a change in technology, and I do not read books. And so my you could argue that my ability to sort of read a physical book and whatever has declined, but my ability to take in new information has vastly increased. I think I've listened to 75 books this year, and I listened to books on topics that I would never read a book about because it would just take me too long. And I actually listen to books, Eric does this too, at like 2.5, sometimes even 3x, because my brain is now, I actually find like the normal pace.
Especially Jeff, the one you recommended.
Yeah, Eric didn't like the book I recommended. It's okay. Whatever. What was it? 2 hours of your time? But my point is, I think that's the fascinating question of what you're talking about is it that we will see cognitive decline, or we will see it globally, or will we see cognitive? I think, Elena, this might have been your point, or will we see cognitive decline in certain areas that used to be important, but now are not as important, but other things will take their place? And I think it's interesting. It used to be that if you were intellectual, what that meant was you could read and write, that was
and remember
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Now we don't have to remember the things because it's all sitting on a computer somewhere or in the cloud somewhere. But what is it that we're going to learn and know? I don't know. I have this very optimistic view of. I always tell people when they say, "Oh, AI is going to take our jobs," I say, in what moment in history has technology ever created fewer jobs? So we'll see.
No, I think, Jeff, that's right. I absolutely agree. The major difference between all the technologies we had so far, from the Stone Age until today, they were dumb technology. They were tools in our hands, and also supporting our brain and extending our cognition and visual and audio capabilities. The problem with the rising AI or intelligent technologies is it is replacing the most important organ in our human body, which is our brain. This is a problem. And you said rightly, we read books and we read about different topics and so on. Why? Because from the kindergarten, you learn to read, right? Many people don't read any books, right? Now today, we know that you can dump PDF file in for ChatGPT or any other system. It gives you a summary. It will start there. Why I listen to audiobook 10 hours? Sorry, Eric.
No, I was going to say the good news is we'll have declined cognitively so much that we won't understand what's happening to us. Anyway, I have to interrupt because we are well over time. This is a fascinating discussion. And as we do every episode, we like to go around and have each one of us say one thing we would like to leave our audience with. And what I didn't warn you about before the episode is we always make our guests go first. So you have no time to think about it. So Ahmed, what's your one thing you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, stay optimistic. And I think those intelligent technologies coming from AI and Gen AI and intelligent hardware and software capabilities, they are very good for us. And even if they would help us only over the next 50 years, and after that, all of us will be cognitively despair. So it will be not a problem at all. But stay optimistic. And we might, as you mentioned, Jeff, we might evolve to even better and more intelligent creature on this planet.
Absolutely. Well, before I do my one thing, what's the best way for people to reach you?
I think LinkedIn and my email, which is my last name first name @gmail.com, and LinkedIn is a good platform to connect as professionals.
Terrific. And for my one thing is, first of all, this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation, and I'm sure we could have gone on for much longer. But my one thing is, I agree with your point. I think that we can be optimistic, and I really believe that human beings always take whatever the next tool is and do something amazing with it. So I'm very optimistic about where things are headed. So I realize it's going to be a couple of years, maybe decades of disruption, but I think some really interesting things will come from it. And I will pass it over to Elena.
Yes, while I still have my cognition with me, I really was blown away by the expansion of really possibilities, because we all, and I work in data and I kind of focus on today. What do we need to fix today? What doesn't add up? Like Jeff was saying, what's not enough, right? But here we talked about these amazing implications that could change the life and humanity and how we see and behave in this world. So this was absolutely fascinating, and I thank you for that.
So my one thing is, and we didn't necessarily talk as much about this, and maybe we touched on it a little bit, but I think the digital twin, the hype around AI and Gen AI has sort of been sucking all the oxygen out of the room. And I think, to your point on that, is these digital twins are going to be ubiquitous. They're already starting, whether we're calling them that or not. They're already being, they're being built. People are using generative AI to create these, twins of whatever it is, I think I mentioned earlier in another conversation about how Khan Academy is using it for like virtual tutors and stuff like that. Like, this stuff is already happening. That's going to become more ubiquitous. And I think once the hyperventilation, if you will, over Gen AI and LLMs and ChatGPT, which, don't get me wrong, I think are absolutely amazing and I use them all the time. But I think this digital twin piece is going to be on the rise. The attack of the clones, is to revert to the pun in the title. So thank you so much, Ahmed. This was fantastic, and
thank you.
Look forward to keeping in touch.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.